Mortal Online 2 is an upcoming game that I've held off on talking about for a long time, because I found that it was hard to find the right words to describe my hope for it, and I also wanted to make sure I got my hands on it before giving out my opinions on what to expect. For those of you that probably don't know, I was actually a huge fan of the first Mortal Online. I played it on and off during the years since its release, but when its Steam launch came, that's when I officially jumped in and got to experience all that the game had to offer. I was playing EVE Online right before this, and I was actually looking for a game that had the complexity of EVE Online, but in medieval sandbox form. And let me tell you right now that Mortal Online fit that bill perfectly. It was easily one of the most detailed sandbox experiences to date, despite its wide amount of issues and bugs that it had. And today we're here to talk about how the sequel is shaping up in comparison and if it has what it takes. About a week or so ago, Mortal Online 2 hosted a stress test where they sent out a large amount of invites to players. I was able to get my hands on a key and jumped in right away to see how the game was progressing. From the very moment I hit the character creation screen, I was immediately hit with a ton of nostalgia for the original game. The character creator itself was very basic in terms of customization, but the species and racial choices is what I was really hoping for. Mortal Online 2 features 4 different species by the name of Human, Ogmir, Alvaran, and Thurser. Male and female are also available, and inside each of these species is a different sub-race you can choose. At first glance these might seem nothing more than cosmetic, but in the original game, the choice you made here did have an impact on your stats. Some had more base intellect, some of them might have been faster than others, higher or smaller heights, things like that. So far I'm not sure if they're aiming to go the same route in Mortal Online 2, but the race that you picked during the stress test did in fact have an impact on your hitbox. For example, the people using Ogmir were harder to hit because of their smaller sizes. Jumping into the stress test, you could pick from multiple different starting locations. I wasn't able to see a full example of the map, but I do recognize some of these locations like Meduli. Plus they're still working on areas from the original game like the city of Tendrum, so I would definitely start expecting this map to grow in size as time goes on. Graphics wise it does seem like an improvement. This one runs on the Unreal Engine 4 and it really shows when you travel throughout the cities or look at the armor textures. Most of it is pretty impressive as far as Sandbox MMOs go. For the user interaction, we were able to gather from resources throughout the world to see a little bit of how that works. This has always been one of the stronger points of Mortal Online alongside crafting for me. The amount of detail that went into those systems is part of the reason why I would happily call this game a medieval version of EVE Online. First, let me talk about the combat briefly though. I was able to check out multiple different starting equipment builds across multiple different species of characters. Each weapon seems to have their own individual stats that set them apart. Like the weapon's speed for instance. One thing I really liked is how your armor actually did its job protecting you from direct blows, something that gets overlooked in a lot of games like this, but it was most noticeable when fighting against fully armored people while I was using a sword. The bow combat seemed pretty good as well. I really enjoyed the aiming animation and think personally it's going to be a really enjoyable combat type when the game gets to its full state. Unfortunately, we didn't get a chance to try any magic, and I'm not sure when they're planning to implement it like the first one had, but for melee, we did have the directional combat to work with. The only problem that I really had with it is that we couldn't properly inverse our attack direction. Ever since the original Mount and Blade and games like it, I've always had to inverse my attack directions. But when I tried to set that in Mortal Online 2, I noticed there wasn't really an option for it. Granted, the directional combat feels way smoother than some other games that have it, but I do hope they plan on developing that option. If you're not aware, this game is open world PvP based. It's a sequel to one of the more hardcore sandboxes on the market, and the Mortal Online 2 team has expressed that they plan to stick true to that form of gameplay. Me personally, I know that I say a lot that I enjoy my MMOs either way they go, but Mortal Online is just a game that I cannot see working without that open world aspect. Hell, in this stress test, I was having fun every time someone walked up and tried to kill me. It felt extremely gratifying when I was able to take someone down, and even when I died I still felt that rush of adrenaline that these games always promote. In this specific test, they didn't have any NPC guards active, which would usually be a thing in the original game. That's planned for later, so it won't be like you'll be able to die and lose stuff just about anywhere if you play this game, but outside the cities, definitely possible. Now the biggest thing that shocked me about this stress test is the introduction to their crafting and refining systems. When I racked up almost over 1,000 hours during my time in the original game's Steam launch, a huge portion of that was dedicated to just the crafting system. This is the kind of game where the materials you use, the different designs and methods you take, they all matter when you create something. Like using white wood to make a bow would always get a different result than iron wood. And you could do things like choosing how much of a certain material you want to pour in. Even in the sequel's early stages, it already seems like it's going to hold a candle to the original, and I'm super excited to try the game out again if I get the chance in the future. The game itself has still got a long way to go, like the stress test was missing a lot of mobs, there weren't any mounts like in the previous game, some of the systems also still feel very bare bones, things like that. But I can definitely say that if you're looking for old school PvP sandbox experiences like Darkfall, Ultima Online, you name it, Mortal Online 2 is one of the ones keeping that dream alive. But with that, thanks so much for watching this quick deep dive into the stress test. Make sure to check out their website and join their Discord to stay up to date, and have a wonderful night or day. Farewell.